Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and in this video, my goal is to get you a bit of a beginner's guide, so when you jump into Dune Awakening, the early section is much easier to understand, and there are a lot of good tutorials, so make sure you're reading those, but there's things that you might glance over, forget, so these might be some reminders in that case, but also just things I've learned by playing this opening section like 3 different times between betas and alphas and stuff like that. So, the first thing you're going to do is create your character. Whatever it looks like, totally up to you. Have fun with that thing. It's always good to do, have a good time in those. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to pick your starting class. My advice personally is to go with Bene Gesserit for a couple of reasons. One, the Trooper has the Shigawire Claw. Very cool grappling hook. Once you get into actually having your suspensor belts and things like that, you can do some really cool stuff with it. But the thing to know is the first area you go to that actually has NPCs in Griffin's Reach is going to have that trainer right there. So you're going to be able to get the Trooper unlocked before pretty much anything else. You're also eventually going to be able to get the Planetologist in this area as well. He is mostly just one of those that's more for efficiency while you're doing cut array and a whole bunch of stuff around the world, climbing, stamina, stuff like that. Not an actual class, just more efficiency while you move around. But the Trooper, you're going to be able to unlock early. So if I started as Trooper, and then the Trooper is the early one that I can talk to, I limit who I can pick. Now, you could do Mentat, but, I mean, you're talking about a shield wall and a sentinel. I feel like this is one that you might use much later, so I don't feel like you're going to get... It's not really necessary for early game. And then for the Swordmaster, again, this is one that you will meet later on. So, like, the Bene Gesserit and the Swordmaster are your later trainers that you're going to meet. But it doesn't feel quite as necessary. The main reason I think Bene Gesserit is the way to go, you've got a sprint, and you've got a lot of running on foot that you're going to be doing early on, especially crossing gaps of the desert. It's nice to have a little bit of a speed boost to do that. You've got your Compel, which is a bit of crowd control, because you tend to find a whole lot of enemies in pairs. And you've also got boost to your healing and recovery that you can get here. You can overheal yourself. You can have more self-healing benefits. So having your healing go farther, especially early on, depending on if you're playing solo or with a group or whatever it may be, I feel like those are good things to have. Trooper being the first thing you unlock, then getting the Shigawire Claw so you can actually, grapple hook around and get to high places. Getting an explosive grenade is really nice, and then potentially the Assault Seeker is huge, so you can actually, direct the assault drone at enemies and just kind of have it run into them directly is really, really nice. Later on, of course, the Hunter Seeker is going to be really cool, but it's going to take a while to unlock that stuff, and early on, this stuff will get you by very, very well, and you'll have some good stuff to work with. So my advice, Bene Gesserit to start for the sprint, crowd control, and healing boost, and then when you get the Trooper, unlock him and get a few options here as well. The other trainers you're going to find as you go, and again, as I work through the game, I'll work on videos for different topics, whether it's the best skills, the best build, stuff like that will come later, so just stay tuned for those. But that's my recommendation for class to pick early on, and you can pick whatever you want, but that's just my experience where I found the most benefit. The second thing to mention is just pick up everything while you're running around early on, because when I started, I crashed somewhere down here in the bottom. I ran to some rocks so I didn't get eaten by a worm, and you're just going to be running around. You might run into a cave, you might run into a scavenger camp. Whatever's going to happen, you're going to see a lot of materials on the ground, and there are quite a few different ones that you're going to want to actually pay attention to. So I'm going to kill these guys just so they don't take me out. Not the most accurate when you fire too fast. There we go. So one of them is going to be right here. It is your salvaged metal. So you're going to either find single pickups on the ground of most of these, or you're going to find these chunks like this, or maybe some smaller chunks on the ground. And if you scan them, you'll just draw the line to cut it, and you'll get the materials. Salvaged metals are going to be good for crafting weapons, crafting ammo. And again, early on, you're truly going to make your first improvised pistol and some basic darts, so you've got some ammo. Ammo crafts 30 at a time, not too expensive, but it's nice to be able to have that as an option. Second thing you're going to be running around, and again, here's another one. So again, salvage metal here. If you need some, you could do that. I don't need a ton right now, so I'm probably okay. Second thing you're going to want to run around and pick up is going to be granite, which should probably be right here on the corner. You're looking up at a whole bunch of copper up there on the mountain. Trying to stay in the shade for the moment. So after scrap metal, you're also going to have plant fiber. You have to get a little bit of this early on to craft your first bandage, but it's also good because you're going to eventually be making clothes, and most of it comes from having some type of fiber that you're going to need to pick up. You'll get different stuff later on, but one of the biggest ones is just your heal kits. So you're gonna have heal kits on you, and you know every plant fiber is 5. Nice thing is, if you're like, hey, I want to craft like 15 heal kits, just queue them up, and then you can go out and they will craft completely on their own. It's nice that they just sit there and do that, and then you'll have them in your inventory. And I'm generally pretty good to go running around on those. So those are actually really easy to manage. And the other piece is for hydration early on in that first third, it makes you drink some of these, like the dew from these flowers. You can get up to the third early on once you do this. I'm going to have a 7-part video talking about like hydration, actually extracting blood and the blood purification. That's a whole cycle of a process, but for a minute we'll get to just like if you're in a pinch very, very early on, look for these pink flowers. You can get your hydration up to its first third, so you're at least there. Next thing we're going to have is granite. Anything that looks like these stone structures here, if you walk up close, you'll see your little cut array icon on it. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to build a base. You're kind of an important piece, and depending on what level of building materials you use later on, like when you research some different building materials, you'll get to the point where you have the advanced construction kit, and you're going to have some higher level building materials that you can actually make stuff out of. And when you get to that point, it's actually fun to mess around with that stuff. You're just going to need more and more materials. So early on, grab some granite as you're going around, because once you've settled on a place to build your base, it's good to have a decent amount of it on you so you can actually just get it built. Another building material is copper. Now, copper is obviously hard to miss because it's got the big blue rock structure to it. And this is what you're going to start to use to make, whether it's different armor upgrades, or you might be making your first sand bike out of things that need like copper ingots and stuff like that. So it's not quite as early as, say, granite and scrap metal, but copper is one of those things. This is the first tier of materials. So when you go to research, you're going to see your basic salvage, and then you're going to see copper. Copper is what you're going to use in this lower region pretty much until you max it out. Then when you get out of Haga Basin, you make a vehicle and you go up, then you're going to start to find the ability to make iron products, and that's kind of the progression you go through. But copper, you're going to use it a lot in all of Haga Basin, and until you leave, you're going to be living on this stuff, so you may as well make a decent amount of it for now. Like, you know, see a water cistern so you can actually store water. We'll get to that situation later, but that's 25 ingots, and then to make the ingots, you actually have to melt them down. So you're going to need a good amount of copper, so it is good while you're running around to pick up a lot of these different materials. Final material to talk about is fuel cells. Now, fuel cells are going to be these things. You'll notice they have a very distinct look to them. They look very uniform, very crafted, and you'll find a couple on the ground typically around it. But if you see one structure like this, we'll see if I have any fuel cells. So right now I have 6. If I actually scan this thing and break it down, usually it's also a very linear cut. So you notice now I'm up to 30. You might need 50 to run your initial starting base for enough time to get you out of it. So if you get somewhere in the range of like 30, 50 fuel cells, you really don't need to pick up more. And as you're running around and picking up all these early materials that you're going to need, you're going to want copper, you're going to want stone, you're going to want plant fiber to a certain point, but again, you don't need to max that one out, but also salvage metals to make all these things. You're going to use up the volume of your backpack much quicker than you're going to use up the like storage cubes, if that makes sense. So I have 35 spots in my inventory total that I can use, but I have a total of 175 volume. The thing to know is, like, if you drop, you know, like say granite and stone, that's going to use a lot more volume and weight than say plant fibers. So I'm going to pick all this stuff back up. But you just want to pay attention to the volume, because you might farm 200 stone, 100 copper, 200 salvage metal, and all of a sudden you're mostly full, which isn't a bad thing to stockpile that stuff early and then take it all to your very first base. Just be aware that it is a weight-based thing, so if you need to clear out some space, plants weigh a little less than, you know, granite stone, for example, and you probably can hold on to your weapons and your ammo because those don't weigh very much. Fuel cells, again, probably don't need much more than 50. Get enough plant fiber, craft yourself your big stack of like heal kits, and then once you're done with that, you don't really need those as much on you anymore. Stone, you know, 200, 300, probably not a bad way to set up your first base. Copper, not as much early, but as you're running around doing more quests, then start to acquire more of that. And then salvage metal, I mean, yeah, you could go through 200 probably pretty quickly between weapons, fabricators, blood purifiers, storage crates. All of those things are going to be beneficial. So as you're running around doing your initial questing, follow your journey through all of your basic quests that you do. So getting equipped and getting your first knight and getting your first gear and building your first foundation, that's going to kind of be your run through of what materials to pay attention to and pick up and how much of each to go for. Now, this is Haga Basin South. When it comes to a base location, it's kind of really up to you. The main points of interest that you're going to have, because when I started, I tend to end up somewhere on the bottom. You might actually crash land over here on the side. Who knows? But one thing to note is just kind of the area that you're looking for. So this structure here is going to have a crash ship. It's going to have the green materials when it comes to crafting. You're going to need some of these for specific things like armor and weapons. The blue icon, the Imperial Testing Station, is an important one because this is for parts that are going to be like your jetpacks that you're going to have, and then eventually your sand bike that you're going to make. These blue craftable materials only come from these type of Imperial Testing Stations, so it's good to have a reference of that one. Your first major NPC location with a vendor and contracts and all of that stuff is right here at Griffin's Outreach. So if you'll notice, kind of this upper area here, upper middle, is where a lot of your interactions are going to be. Your first trial quest is going to be down here, but it's not too hard to cross from here to here one time. The things that you might actually want to do, though, is like the outposts, because you'll get intel. Intel is what you use to do research, and that lets you unlock a lot more stuff. So if you want to find all of your intel, you're going to be going here and here, here, and then down here for all of these. If you want to knock all of those out, it's good to have nice intel going into the next zone, so you can pick that up and not have to come back for it. Anything that's orange, those are going to be the little Fremen caves that will basically have like a hydro sealed, looks like almost like bubble wrap on a wall, like on a door, and then you have to cut it open. There's usually a couple enemies or maybe a booby trap bomb inside, and that's going to be the orange materials that are used for crafting things like your first still suit and stuff. When it comes to where to make your base, like if you crash land over here, I crash landed over here somewhere, you don't want to just like crash land, gather a few materials, and make your base right down here, because then you're going to be like going back here and back and back and back and forth, making these long trips. Try to get to the upper half of Haga Basin South and try and build your base somewhere around these main 3 locations. And honestly, if you build your base near one of like the scavenger camps or a couple of camps, not right next to it where you spawn and you're going to face them, but enough distance to where, like, if I run around the corner from here, I've got 3 sets of enemies that I can kill, that I can extract blood from, that I can get materials from, things like that. So pick a reasonable place pretty close to some enemies, and in the northern set, kind of around these three main structures, because maybe you build your base here, and every time you like load into the game early on, you're going to run the Imperial Testing Station to gather these blue materials. When you go up to other zones like Eastern Vermilius Gap or Western or something like that, you're still going to go into testing stations. They're just going to be more difficult. So if you're able to stock up on blue supplies and green supplies and some of these orange supplies and take them with you to the next zone, because you will eventually abandon this first base and just leave it, take as many of the value, you'll want to take as many of these with you. So if you like run these places multiple times before you make the cross on your sand bike to go up here, it's actually not a bad thing. And if your base is nearby, you can make this loop pretty quickly. So that's my advice of a base location and why, and kind of the reasons you might venture farther from it. Like if you go get intel here, 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 and then if you go do the trial quest down here, get your intel from all of these the same time that you do it, you won't have a map that looks like this. You'll have fog of war everywhere. As soon as you get to the survey section of the quest, you're going to have all of this visible and you'll know where to go. But if you can look at it before you jump in, hopefully this helps you know. But like if you're looking for locations, you're going, this is the structure here, this whole grouping of rocks that has the trade outpost. This structure here is the one that has the testing site. And then if you see the wreck, then you'll see this one. If you're not really seeing the wreck and you're kind of stuck over here, look at kind of the map structure to see where you are within relation to everything else. But typically you'll want to go to the other side that you can run to, because this run up here, you're going to need a bike, so don't try and run that one. But if you can run across, then you kind of start to recognize some of these locations. There's maps online as well. That will help you establish a good place for your base, near probably some couple enemies that you can kill every time, get some quick blood extraction, and then you're going to be able to make these loops, knock out your quests pretty quickly, and then the one time if you want to go knock out all the intel, you can do that. But also if you like see all the intels kind of on the outskirts, you'll make a sand bike eventually, and then if you want to do the sand bike run, gather all your intel, and then go north and leave this area, do that last. That's an option too. But hopefully that gives you an idea of where to build your base, what to keep in mind, and the major locations that you'll be going to potentially frequently in the early stages. So one of your most important things that you're going to have to manage is your hydration level. And you're going to have health. Your stamina can be affected by your hydration. You can actually have like extra stamina if you feel sated, or energy. I forget which one it is. but it's also like stamina cost, dehydration. All of these pieces are there's a lot related to just your water supply. So the way this is gonna work is early on, you're gonna have to go drink those dew flowers just to be able to kind of survive and get by. They're not too bad, but they will give you just the basics to get around. Then your first thing that you're gonna craft is your blood extractor. And it's a very simple thing. You'll craft it very early, and what it allows you to do is basically extract blood from enemies that you kill. So you'll craft your first basic pistol with some scavenged metal. You'll craft your first like little bullets and everything. And then what you'll be able to do is come over here and, you know, take the enemies out. And then you'll take your blood extractor and I'll be able to gather blood from them. And now it tells you your blood extractor is about to break, which is fine because I'm sure I can make another one. You can also harvest their loot at the same time as you're extracting the blood. So if this thing is low, it's still going to last for a little while, but if I need to craft another one, it is not a big deal. It's just a little salvage metal. So now you can see that I crafted a blood extractor. Another thing to craft is a small blood sac. The one thing I do advise, craft about 3 of those things to start. Because if you go for a decent run, you go down in an outpost or in that like crash ship, there's way more than 3 enemies. So you may as well just be ready to be able to extract a like good amount of blood early on. Later on, the next like the medium blood sac holds like 9,000. But right now, it's good to be able to at least carry 9,000 because your inventory will be able to hold it and it lets you have a lot more options of what to do with it. Now, in a pinch, like right now, you'll notice my hydration is maybe half, maybe. Ignore the bar on the left, I'll cover that in a second. But what you actually can do is you can drink the blood. Kind of vampire, kind of weird, but what that's going to do is allow your body to actually get the water that would come from the blood. But when you do this, so I drank one of them, you'll notice now, if I pull up my status, I have the blood drinker debuff. Takes my health and gives me about 3/4 of it. But it does boost my hydration status, so it allows that to last longer. And it allows me to potentially not die if I'm in a pinch, because if you don't have any flowers around you, but you did kill an enemy, you can at least drink some blood, get around for a little while, and do what you need to do. Optimally, what you want to do is take your blood, come back to your base, and this is where having all the materials early on to be able to make a base and make a blood purifier pretty quickly is take the blood, bring it to the purifier, and you would deposit it in here. And you'll notice I've deposited a lot, and then it's actually processed over here. So now it's where my water capacity is sitting right here. So what I can do now is I can actually just drink the water if I want to from here directly. That's been filtered. I feel sated. My hydration is mostly full, and now there's capacity for it to process some of that stuff over. But if you go on a run and maybe you're like, okay, I'm going from here, I'm going to go down in here, I've got some camps, going to go down in the Imperial testing station, you can easily fill up 3 of these. You don't probably need more than 3 because as you can see, you're going to need a second blood purifier just to purify them all. But having 3 on you, you could at least deposit 6 of them, have 1 in case you need to drink it, and it's really not that bad because as soon as that debuff is gone, I'll use 1 bandage, which is like the easiest thing ever to craft, and I'm back whole again. So that's not that bad. The next stage comes in making a leader john, and it's basically a canteen. So what you're going to do there is you'll eventually research here, and you'll see the basic leader john takes copper ingots and some of the micro sandwich fabric. That's the Fremen materials, so it's going to be in those orange caves on the map. And you're basically going to make yourself a canteen, and you're actually going to be able to store water in there and just bring it with you. So then you don't have to worry about drinking blood and having the debuff. You're just going to have water with you. And then after that, what's going to happen is you're eventually going to get a tool, which is down here, which is a dew reaper. And there's flowers later on at the right time of day, typically kind of at dawn. So as the sun is working on coming up, but not too far, you're actually going to be able to extract water just straight from the flowers. And if you got a couple canteens, it goes right in there, and you're just going around with water. But you'll also realize it's going to take like silicone blocks to be able to make this. It takes water to make silicone blocks. So you got to actually gather enough blood, purify it all to be able to make the silicone blocks. Then when you get this one, then you get to that stage. So yeah, early on, the idea of hydration gets to be like a little daunting. You're like, I have to manage this water the whole time. Well, a cool thing that you eventually get, and you'll notice what I'm wearing, is a still suit. And this is one of the early unlocks after you do the first trial of like the Fremen trial things that you do. you're able to actually craft your still suit, and that allows you, as you'll notice, to have a catch pocket. And what that is it basically catches all of your water expenditures from your body, filters them, and you can get a decent amount of that back. The better the still suit, the better it is at filtering. And what I can do is if I hit F, I'm just going to drink from those catch pockets. And you can see I took 98 milliliters of water, and now I am fully hydrated. And that was just from my suit, from me using it. So you actually get to be a lot more efficient. Now, if you're exploring, that's a good way to go. But later on, you're also going to have the option to make some better armor. You got scavenger rags, which don't really do me that much good. But you come down here and you're like, now I got scout armor. So instead of just my basic still suit, which has got 28 armor, 8, 8, and 11, for example, if I go to just even the scout armor, I'm going to have 56, 37, 28, and 37. So I'm going to go from approximately like 40 armor to probably like 120 ballpark math. Major difference. But later on, once you've got leader johns, things like that, you're going to be able to have canteens of water, so water's not as much of an issue, so you can have much better armor, so you're safer when enemies start to get tougher and things get a little crazier. So that's kind of the progression of what you're going to go between. Early on, blood extraction, blood purification. You can drink the blood and pinch if you need to. Get that filtered, drink it. Still suit can be more efficient. Eventually, you can take the water that's been purified, bring it with you in your canteen, the leader john, and at some point, you'll be even more efficient where you can just use that dew reaper, which looks like kind of a scythe, and just pull the water straight out from those flowers. And it's just more efficient if you do it at dawn, and eventually you're going to need to use water for a lot of things. So that whole loop will happen, but that's just kind of an idea of what you're getting into and what to pay attention to. But early on, you know, your blood extractor, not that hard to make, but I would craft 3 of these when you're making them the first time. That way you've got way more room for those early blood extractions. And then when you bring them back, you've got more if you need it in a pinch to drink. And you can drink 1, 2, 3. It's not going to make your debuff worse. So if you're really low on hydration, drink 3 liters of blood or whatever it may be. Gross, but it works. Get your hydration damn near maxed out. And then you can, you know, wait those 2 minutes and the debuff goes away. But having this much to bring back to the base can be really, really beneficial. If you're ever not entirely sure what to do, your journey tab will cover quite a bit. So in the beginning, you'll see your first set of armor, your first range weapon. And if you follow the journey and the quests that pop up, you're going to be set up pretty well to have some success. It tells you how to fabricate a still suit, do the first trial in Haga Basin. And then right now I'm doing some lessons in cartography and rendezvous with this guy. And you'll be doing some different objectives you go through. But this new beginning quest line is really good at showing you the basics. It's going to help you build your first actual car, or sand bike, not a car yet. And once you do all that, you've actually got a sand bike and you're going to be able to travel across the gap. And by across the gap, they mean the giant sand gap from here to what actually is finally your next rock structure up here, because you cannot walk that, you will get eaten, but you can drive it because you'll be fast enough. So the journey is a really good thing. If you're lost and not entirely sure what to do or whatever's out here, you can actually, you know, check all of these things out. You can even talk to apparently the ornithopter pilot, reach a settlement if you want to do that. And that's a good way to travel around early on until you get your ornithopter of your own. So when it comes to building your first base, I kind of told you where, but one thing to make note of is when you put down your actual sub-fief. You'll notice it right here, as long as this guy doesn't shoot me. He might, so I'll just take him out early. There might be one more runner around the corner, we'll see. The sub-fiefs is where you're actually going to build... Yeah, got one more. I have an upgraded pistol, so it's a little bit better. But what you're going to notice is when you build your sub-fief, which is kind of your, like, this is my plot of land kind of thing, it's always right in the middle. One of the first things that I didn't think about until one of my later beta playthroughs, on the right you have build, piece picker, just to pick a piece, move, repair, or demolish. You can get rid of it if you want to. But when you like claim your land, the nice thing is you can take this console and you can just move it to a corner way out of the way, and then you just have the big center of your plot of land to play with without having to like work around this thing. So just tuck it in a corner somewhere, as far in the corner as it'll go, leave it there, and now you have the big plot of land to work with. Now, when you are building, one thing I will tell you, your basics, you just need like 4 foundations. Pretty simple stuff. And the nice thing is you can build foundations, you can change the height of them. And again, if you want to move them, you can move, which actually I have to build the piece first, so I'm just going to demolish these. But if you're building, you know, you can change the rotation. And also, one thing I would advise, whatever like your top corner is, you know, change your height here.
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm
to where this foundation is kind of on the top. And then from here, you can actually build out a structure, and then you can do inclines and stuff like that. So your options for what to build kind of get a lot better. One, when that thing's tucked in the corner, but also the fact that like you can mess with the height and the rotation and incline. And then all you have to do just to build something, by the way, all you gotta do to fill it, just hold down the mouse button and it actually will build this piece. And then from here you could say, okay, maybe I want to go to, if you want to change sets, by the way, that'll basically just change, do I want to go to like actual functional utilities, do I want decorations, or do I want, say, walls and structures and things of that nature? Do I want a door? Do I want a window? Do I want a half wall? Do I want a corner wall? You can have a whole lot of fun building with this thing. It's actually going to be really awesome to mess with. But early on, just a basic wall. And then if you want to have the outer face pop the proper direction, just rotate it.
A large sandstorm is approaching.
And then again, you can have that wall right there, sitting right there. Now, the thing to know, we have a big sandstorm approaching. And depending on which direction it's coming from, it will actually show up on the mini-map before. Don't know if it's going to actually let me see it. Oh, coming from down here, so it's going to be below me, so it's probably going to kind of go across, which means if I'm going to look for it, it probably is going to be coming from this direction. Yep, and they're huge. So that's the sandstorm that's actually coming. Also be careful where you stand. That's the sandstorm that is coming. The outer edge is probably going to get me. So you want to make sure your base always has enough power, because I'm going to leave that out there and it's not shielded. And that sandstorm is going to come. And this is where it comes into your status of unsheltered, sheltered, and enclosed. So if I'm just on open sand, if I'm not, I'm fully exposed to the elements, and unless I'm just in the shade, but I'm unsheltered right now, that thing comes in. If I've got a sand bike, if I've got any vehicle, it's going to get messed up and damaged. I left one sand bike early out in a sandstorm. It was damn near ruined. Then you get to the second phase and you've got sheltered. Closer to walls, kind of covered up. You're at a point where you have some shelter, some covering, you're in a little bit better space. Finally, you can get to a point where you can get almost fully covered by like 3 different walls, and you can be enclosed. If you can get a building to enclosed status, you will technically be safe. If you're inside, what you'll notice is once I'm in here, I'm actually water sealed. Means I'm not actually going to lose water or hydration while I'm in the building. So it's really important to make sure early on. As I said, like, remember when I said I have 423 power cells in here, which is stupid? That's going to last me for 7 days. Your opening base you might need to use it for like however many hours. So it's like right now in storage, I've got 178 in here and it's going to last for a week. Overkill completely. So that's why I say it's like find 50 and you're probably fine. I could probably deposit these in over here and I've still got way too much. But overall, fuel cells are going to last for plenty of time, but that keeps your base shielded. And then again, you can see the sandstorm has passed. So you can see kind of the angle of where it's at. And now if I come out here, you'll notice these probably have actually been damaged. So if I check for like repair status, they're perfect because they're brand new. Maybe it was just a light storm and it's being nice. But you want to make sure that when you see sandstorms coming, that they are something you really actually pay attention to. But also when it comes to building, mess with it, tinker. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, you might just leave some materials out there and that's totally fine. But I will tell you, moving that initial guy out of the way allows you to have a lot more fun in your building space. And early on, since you will abandon the base, don't make it really intricate. It's not necessary. But later on, if you really get intricate into a base, but then you want to move it, there's a tool to actually copy and paste the framing of your building. Not all of the functional utilities that are inside, but the framing of the building. You can copy and paste and move that later on. I think that'll actually be really cool. But early on, keep it a pretty basic base, because this first one, you're going to abandon. When you finally cross the gap and you're up here, you can put a little more effort in up there. So I know the game does cover quite a bit of that stuff, but it's what I wanted to kind of show you in-game, live gameplay examples, things about the blood extraction when it comes to combat, pretty simple stuff. And what I will tell you is explore. When you go into the Imperial testing station, open every container, check every corner. You're going to find some secret stuff in there that you'll eventually have to do a contract for. So if you're just randomly exploring and you find all the secret stuff that's in there, as you can see, like when I went into both of those places. I got the Holtzman amplifier, I got this, and these are part of contracts. And the nice thing is, I don't even have the contract yet, but if I go into this testing station and I go through it and I pick up the pieces of stuff that I need for the contracts, as soon as I get to the step of the contract that needs it, I already have it and I'm done. So it's actually really nice that you can pick up what you need even before it asks for it, and you can be prepared. So overall, when it comes to this basin, all the big stuff's going to be in these main 3 sections up top. You've got the intel that you can get on the outer rim. Maybe easiest just to save that when you're on your final sand bike tour and then bail when you go north. Don't spend too much time on your home base because it's eventually going to get completely abandoned. It's part of the quest line and you got to go north. And early on, gather a bunch of resources so you have plenty to mess around in your base. And when you build your base, build it somewhere towards the top, work your way up there, and build it kind of close to one of these scavenger camps or something so you've always got some enemies to kill if you need them around. If you guys enjoyed this one, if you learned something from it, hopefully you did, drop a like below. I've got a lot more videos coming. I'm going to be playing this thing for a pretty solid week straight or so. So look for more from me. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell. If you enjoyed this, drop a like, leave a comment if you've got any early tips that you want to share with others as well. Otherwise, find me on Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, Patreon, and I'm probably forgetting one. You know where to find me. It's Ebontis and the Cheetah. See you in the next video.